Talk, the home where the talking is good. It's your boy, Cody, the other guy, Robert, and another guy.
Yes,
There's no
shout
tiny
out.
table.
Woo,
We got a
no
big
tiny
room, and we
table.
got Mr.
I broke it.
It's
Yeah.
okay. Colton Dixon.
Hello.
Wow.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We
that
are
was quite
honored.
the introduction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
a
good.
fun one. It's evolved over the time that we've been doing this, and now it's just kind of one of the things that we just got to do it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So first of all, thank you so much for sitting down with
Yes.
us. We're
Yeah.
absolutely honored that you'd be here. We know you're a busy guy and you got a lot going on. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be
Yeah.
fun.
So if
go
there's
ahead.
someone that doesn't know who you are, give us a
Yes,
brief
that's
rundown of who is Colton Dixon. It's a loaded question.
That is it's like a big question.
Who are you?
I'm a Tennessee native, Murfreesboro, born and raised, right outside of Nashville. I went on a show called American Idol.
Yeah.
Singer-songwriter. I'm a Christian. I'm a husband. I'm a father to twins, two girls.
Wow.
And I like ping pong.
Yes, and he's very good at ping pong. Thank you for taking it easy on
So when
me.
you're done with the music career, is it ping pong? Like, is
Yeah,
that
if
the
music
next-
doesn't pan out, table tennis it is.
There you go. So did you guys do a gender reveal for the girls? I know that's a huge thing right now.
We did.
Were you, and I know, I don't know if your wife will ever watch this, but were you kind of set on having boys or girls, or were you open to whatever?
So we were open to whatever.
Gotcha.
What's so funny is we went in to find the gender of our singular baby.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we left not knowing the gender to either
Wow.
baby. So it was like we went in, this technician needs to work on her job. She just was not very good.
Oh, no.
She just we thought something was wrong.
Yeah.
Like bad wrong.
Because she couldn't tell you anything, I guess, right?
Well, she was sitting there and she was looking and she's like, she got really concerned all of a sudden. She looked at us. She's like, "Have you guys been to an ultrasound yet?" And we're like, "No, this is our first one." We heard that we might find out the gender of the baby, and she kind of looked at us, and I was like, "We lost a baby." Like that was just that was the
what you
thought.
thought.
That's where I went.
Wow.
But that was her countenance. That's what she
Right.
was feeding us, and she's like, "Man, I don't know how to tell you this." There's two of them in there.
Wow.
And I'm like, I literally turned gray. I could have puked.
Yeah.
Man.
My wife was like cry laughing. Like we just did not know.
Yeah, I don't even know how you would
to
respond to that.
digest what was just given to us.
Yeah.
I got home. I painted the laundry room that night. Just
Really?
like the checklist. I'm like, all right, we got to do something here. Just
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was crazy.
That's wild. And what are your daughters' names?
Athens and Dior. Athens means strong and courageous.
Wow.
Dior means golden.
Wow.
Yeah, we're millennials.
Yeah,
so,
those are great
we went
names.
for it.
Yeah, we have a two youth leaders that help us, and they just had triplets.
God bless them.
Yeah.
What's crazy is they were believing God for twins, and they were actively going and saying, like, we want twins.
Yeah.
So God was like, we'll give you one more.
Yeah.
Wow.
Triplets.
I would have
Crazy.
been like, hold on, God, that wasn't the deal.
Yeah.
That's not what I asked for.
So with twins,
Oh,
are you
man.
guys are you guys gonna continue to grow the family? Or are you guys good with what you got, what the Lord's blessed you with?
We're not growing it today, brother.
Yeah.
we're content today.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think we will go for another at some point. Just not today.
Not
Yeah,
today. Two's good for now.
Two is plenty for now.
It is. It keeps you busy, no doubt.
And they're easy. Like
Yeah.
That's amazing.
all the stories and things that we've seen. We have easy kids. We're so grateful.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep it at 2 for a little while.
Awesome. Very good. Well, we've got some questions that we talked about the other day that we
Yep.
would love to ask you. We've got
Come on.
some students, and not even students, we've got some people in our church who are kind of pursuing the entertainment angle of things. And I'm sure that you get these questions all the time. And so I don't remember off the top of my head what they are, but Cody wrote them down.
Yeah, so obviously you said that you're a Christian. So at what point in your walk with God, or really just in your walk in life, did you say, like, I want to pursue a career in entertainment? And did that coincide with, like, knowing, like, this is my God-given purpose, or did those things happen at the same time and at a different place?
I actually feel like the calling happened before even like the full-on desire to really pursue. Like a lot of other kids, I took piano at a young age and was doing a piano recital down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And my teacher, I showed up to the recital, was going to play "I Can Only Imagine" by Mercy Me,
Okay.
which is one of my favorite songs on the radio at the time. And I get there, and he's like, "Hey, Colton, I think you need to sing tonight as well." And I'm like, I'm a 13-year-old dude. Like, not a good idea.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know, it's hard enough to sing as it is, and then you throw puberty into the mix. And it's just like not a good idea.
Yeah. A lot
But
going
he's
on
like,
there.
man, I think you need to sing it too. And I'm like,
Did
so
you already like sing a lot at this point?
No,
or was-
I'd never
okay.
sang in public before in my life.
Wow. That's a big ask right there.
Big
Yeah.
ask. And so I walk out, and the microphone sat up there, and I'm like, well, this would look so dumb if I don't sing it. So I sang it, and man, I feel like this is the first time I encountered the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
I just knew, I didn't know what it was going to look like,
Sure.
but I just knew that God was going to use music in my life
Gotcha.
to reach people and to get to tell people about Jesus. And so I wasn't big into sports back then. I played baseball and inline hockey, and I just love sports. And so I held on to baseball a couple more years and was still figuring it out, but finally I knew that music was the thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I started doing that, formed a band with my sister. We led worship at the church we grew up in, and then another church asked us to come and be their worship band for the youth group. And
Okay.
so we did that, and that kind of led us up until American Idol.
Yeah.
But yeah, started really young for me.
Which
Wow.
I'm sure that was an incredibly wild journey all in itself, right? The American Idol experience.
Man, it's super wild. It's kind of a crash course in everything, you
Yeah.
know, music, business, how to conduct
Sure.
yourself in a podcast, how to, you know, like all
Right.
those things. But for me too, it was just the biggest crash course in finding my own faith. Growing up in church, I didn't realize it, but I had been riding on other people's faith for a long time.
Wow.
And God had been real to me and had shown himself, revealed himself to me in a lot of ways. But there were still a lot of areas where
Right.
I was counting on other people to make
Right.
it happen for me.
Right.
And that was kind of like my first experience at what adult life was. I was on my own in Hollywood and had a lot of opportunities to do things that weren't the best for me.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
Sure.
having to navigate that, and I'm so thankful for God's grace and protection over me during that season.
Absolutely.
But I learned a lot about myself spiritually and grew a lot closer to
Yeah.
God during that season.
Yeah.
So what kind of challenges did you face, like getting to where you're at here today? Like what?
Oh, man.
Like what kind of hurdles have you had to overcome to become Colton Dixon?
Yeah. Man, I feel like I could go a million different directions with that.
Sure.
Man, I think the biggest thing that anyone in my line of work, if you ever take a stage, it's the same thing, is ego and pride. Pride can really screw up a lot of things.
Yeah.
I did American Idol 2 seasons. The first season I got cut just before people could vote, and thought that was it. Had a lot of fun, but at the same time, I'm like, that was a lot. I'm good. And had a couple opportunities come out of that. I remember the Ellen Show called, and I got to go play that, which was really cool. But
Yeah.
man, I just remember there was I'll just be super candid with you.
Yeah,
There was a
do
moment
it.
backstage where my dad was filming. I love my folks. They'll be here tonight, actually.
Oh,
on the show.
wow. Wow.
But just super proud parents who have just bent over backwards to make things happen for my sister and I.
That's amazing.
But he was filming back there just out of excitement, asking me how I felt or whatever. And man, I just was not having the best day, and you know, thought a lot of myself in the moment, and was kind of like, it's like, you know, Dad, get the camera out of my face. And looking back now, it crushes me that I handled it that way.
Sure.
And even remembering the look on his face was devastating. It's like one of those things, like whenever you do something stupid, or like when you disobey your parents, whatever, it's like, okay, I'm gonna get in trouble. But then whenever you like disappoint your parents,
hits so hard.
it's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It crushes you.
Yeah.
And that was that to me.
Wow.
So it's kind of a wake up call. Like, wow, like if I don't come with a servant heart, like God's not gonna be able to use it.
Wow.
But when I come ready to serve and when my heart's in the right place, like with a humble heart, that's what God likes to see, right?
That is. Yeah.
And so he'll exalt that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the wake up call for me. And he brought me a long way during that summer and kind of honestly made room for that next go at American Idol, which wasn't even on my radar.
Wow.
But yeah, man, God is so, I'm so thankful for grace.
Amen
You know,
to
that
that.
even when we don't get it right the first time, that there's a second and a third and
Sure.
a fourth time. And,
Sure.
And I'm living proof of that. So yeah, really cool period of my life.
So the journey after American Idol to today, I mean, like what kind of things, because like you had to create your own band, I guess, to be able to do this?
Yeah, man, on the technical side, you got to have tough skin. You just do. You're going to hear no a lot. And man, I just super practical side, technical side.
Sure.
I've learned that like in my line of work, you kind of have to speak the language of everything that is involved with your business.
Gotcha.
Right. So whether it's lighting or live sound or social media or whatever, you kind of need to know enough to be able to speak the language with people who are way better at that than you are.
Yeah.
But if you can't speak the language, you can't communicate what the vision is.
Right.
Right. So it's so important.
Good
the Bible
advice.
says to write down the vision, make it plain.
Yeah.
And so within our team, like obviously there's like the main goal, which is people. Like we're after people.
Yeah.
And we obviously want to show them the love of Jesus, and we want to point them the right direction. But our end goal, it's not even to tell them, oh, you got to change your ways. It's just like, hey, like it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You know, like God's got your future. All you have to do is come to Him and just present it in that way instead of a point your finger kind of way. But it starts head down, and it either smells really good or stinks from the head down. You know,
That's true. That's
so
true.
that's on me as the leader of
Wow.
my team.
Yeah.
So whether it's my drummer, guitar player, my front of house guy, my guy doing lights, whatever, there's a lot of responsibility, just responsibility, I guess, to be able to lead your team well.
Yeah.
And you can't do that without getting filled up yourself. I've also learned that time on stage is not the time to get filled up.
Right.
That's the time that you're pouring out.
Right, sure.
Right. So it's important to be in the Word every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like that's such great practical advice, especially we have some teenagers, you know, they're trying to do the YouTube thing, and they're trying to do the music thing, and they're trying to do this. And just one thing that we've told people before is just never stop learning, right? Educate yourself, learn what this means and learn what that means. And so you kind of are savvy when you walk into these situations, and you've got some of the terminology. I feel like that's such great practical advice to kind of dig into your trade, dig into your craft. And even when we're over there setting up, they were talking about you and how like you've put your hands on a lot of this equipment, and you've made it yourself, and you've invested Colton into it. So it's not, you know what I mean? You're just really involved in the process.
Yeah, for better or for worse. You know, I wish it was just out of the love out of it. Sometimes it's out of necessity.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, man, I love that. And man, something else I would say, like before you dive into those practical things, is figure out what the goal is. Like, because if you're shooting blind, you're going to wind up running in circles, and you're going to get good at a couple things, and you're not going to know how to use them. So if you're doing music, it doesn't have to be Christian music. It can be whatever.
Sure.
Figure out what your goal is.
Yeah.
If your goal is to tell your story, great, tell it well.
Yeah.
If your goal is to make people smile, great, make them smile the biggest smile they've ever had. You know, like just figure out whatever that is, and then start implementing those practical things.
Yeah.
Do you have an issue like finding a good community around you right now? Like as a person that's in the entertainment and also like in the spotlight, but also you're kind of in the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. But like, how do you keep a good community around you to keep your head straight and keep you going the right direction?
Yeah,
that's a great question. And honestly, it's been difficult at times to find community.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for my home church. My wife and I go to the Belonging in Nashville.
Oh, cool.
We love that church.
Yeah.
We love our pastors and are so thankful for the people there. They're so understanding of what we do. There are a lot of artists, musicians who go to that church, and you know, sometimes we're on a tour where Sundays aren't an option.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
They do Tuesdays as well, so they've got options for us, which is amazing. Sometimes our schedule doesn't allow for that either, so we'll go a month or two sometimes without getting to be plugged in at our home church in person.
Yeah.
But whenever we're there, it's like we never skipped a beat.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm so thankful for that. But yeah, being on the road, you become really close friends with people who are right there next to you, right?
Sure.
Maybe in a different lane, but you know, we're out there doing the same thing.
Right.
And I'm thankful for that, but it's also so important to have people at home where your home base is that aren't related to music at all. So your conversations when you're hanging out with another couple
good.
That
isn't,
makes sense.
hey man,
Yeah.
what's your fall look like? You know,
Yeah.
are you is so-and-so still doing your lighting? Is, you know,
Right,
whatever. It's
right.
not that.
A little
It's,
break.
Yeah.
it's a break.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a breath of fresh air. What I do can kind of overtake everything that we do.
Yep.
Because it's such a part of me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you guys do Enneagram. I'm also a 3.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm all into the creative stuff, and it's a reflection of who I am, and I want to make it as loud and proud as I can. You
Yeah.
know? So my wife has even had to be like, hey, like, I love that you're treating this like your ultimate job. Like,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
But maybe can we find some hours where
Yeah.
you do it and you go in hard, and
Right.
then maybe save some for some
Put it in
family
a
time,
schedule.
and you know, yeah. And I'm like, it's a good idea. Let's
It
do that.
is.
So yeah, that's honestly, community is something that we still have to navigate and be intentional about.
I think that's
amazing.
good advice. I know you listened to it. I was listening to a podcast, Tim Ross, and he was talking about, as a pastor, when he would come home, his wife would be like, "We're not your staff." You know what I mean? Take off the pastor jacket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Take 10, 20 minutes, whatever you need to decompress or whatever, and then you come out here and be with your family.
Totally.
You
Cuss
know?
a little. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Throw something at the wall.
Kidding.
And so so that's been a good change for you too, right? To be able to just take that off and say, okay, we're not Colton Dixon any music anymore. We're just dad. We're just husband.
Yeah,
We're
well,
just-
I'm not Colton Dixon as soon as I walk in the door. But sometimes I can bring, whether it's emails
Right.
or keeping track of how songs do it, whatever, like,
Yeah.
or even just, I've got a little studio in my house.
Okay.
So even just, I can catch a creative bug
Yeah.
and just be like, I just got a song idea. I know we're about to go to bed. Do you care if I
Run in there.
down? And
Yeah.
But I've learned, like, you know what? It's better just to have a set time. I'll just throw a voice memo down, and I'll remember it the
Okay.
next day. And,
Yeah.
and just, you know,
Yeah.
you're intentional.
Yes.
And I think
That's good advice.
I think it should be God first, family second,
There it is.
ministry third.
That's right.
Yep.
And you know, it's so often I have mixed up all 3 of those.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's important to, you know, again, about write down the vision and make it plain. It's even good to be reminded of it yourself.
Yeah.
Even though you're the one writing it down, it's good to revisit that.
Yeah.
Sometimes even daily, like just throw it into your morning routine of like, all right, what's the goal?
Yeah.
Like where are my priorities
Yeah.
at here? And you're able to schedule out your day accordingly.
Yeah. I've got something to piggyback onto that, and then we'll make
Yeah,
sure that
sure.
we didn't. So, like, in this industry, and I may be completely wrong because I'm not in the industry, but I imagine there's no success without failure.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
what did you do in those failures to be like, okay, you know what, this just isn't it. I need to go a different direction. What kept you going when maybe it didn't manifest the way you thought it would, or the success wasn't there as quickly as you thought it would, and you hit these failures and these speed bumps to where you just didn't throw in the towel and quit? But you're like, I know the vision, like you talked about, but what else allowed you to hit those walls head on, but not give up?
Yeah. So many things play into that. One of those things is having thick skin, which in some ways I do, in some ways I don't. I might throw on a good front, but some things get to me more than others.
Right.
It's funny how you'll focus on the one negative comment instead of the 99 positive
Yeah,
comments.
let's talk about that, right?
We could go deep into that.
Yeah.
But man, I don't remember if it was my dad or someone else, but someone said, don't believe the hype, good or bad.
Yeah, that's good advice.
That's really good.
It's just, it'll just save you a lot of headache in life. Also, comparison, Teddy Roosevelt said this, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't
That
mean
is
to
like
laugh
one of my
right there.
favorite quotes
Yeah.
in the world. You know, even in my own industry, I could be doing really great, but you're on a tour or you're on a festival with someone else and you look at their lighting or
Right.
you look at
Right.
how
crowd
the
that they
crowd,
drew.
that crowd that they drew or
Yeah.
the type of crowd that they drew and you go, oh man, I wish I had mosh pits at my show.
Right.
Well, you know, there might have been a time.
We'll
I
help
wish
you out with that tonight.
Yeah, sick. Let's
We'll
go.
start it.
Circle pit.
You know,
Wall of death. We'll
yeah,
start on
dude.
Just like Cody and I, but
that would
you
be
know.
a
Yes.
first. I would pay to see it.
At your own concert. You
Oh,
can't see it.
I would, man. I would be right there for it.
It's just going to be the 3 of us, but whatever. We'll
Oh
do
my
it. It's
gosh.
going to be the smallest wall of death ever.
I love it.
So comparison. Yeah, I derailed
Yeah,
that.
but
Go ahead.
even in like with where I'm at, that can still be an issue.
Wow.
You look on your left or your right, and
Yep.
and you compare with where you're at to theirs, where they're at or whatever. Jeremy Camp said something that was so good. We were out with him for a few shows, and he's like, man, like, God created each of us so uniquely
Right.
and
Yes.
for a specific purpose.
Absolutely.
So the audience that I'm speaking to, Colton, might not be the same audience that you're speaking to, and vice versa.
Right.
Amen.
We're in different lanes,
So
Yeah.
good.
but we're still running the same race.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
let's cheer each other on.
There you go.
It's not a competition.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
all
Yeah.
we all have the same goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We should all be doing our very best to complete our race. With endurance and with let's get after it.
Yeah.
But never should it be, this or this. Just focus on
Yep.
the vision.
Yep.
That's
What God has
amazing.
called you to.
Yep.
And man, that's helped me a lot.
Yeah.
But just a quick story
Sure.
of getting through failure. End of 2018, I got dropped by my record label.
Oh, wow.
And that, at least in my career, that was the ultimate, you failed.
Yeah.
It feels kind of like you lose your job. As a musician, you find a lot of security in having a label.
Sure.
That's kind of like one of those things. It's like, oh, I made it. Like when you get
Right.
signed
I
to
got
a
the
la-
record deal.
Yeah,
Yep.
which may not be the case anymore.
Right.
There are pros and cons to both having
yeah,
one
yeah.
and not having one. Different conversation. But I just remember that season just feeling like, wow, that was it. It was so much fun. Had a blast.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't believe it's over. And my wife encouraging me, saying, man, I know it seems like a setback, but what if God is just setting you up for what's next?
Yeah.
Like just a shift in perspective.
Sure.
And life's all about perspective.
It is.
Yeah.
And
It really is.
someone sees a glass half full,
Right.
and the other sees a glass half empty.
Right.
It's just how you look at life. And,
Yep.
And we chose to believe that God was up to something.
Yeah. There you
And,
go. There you go.
I still need to write the country song. I'm saying it here first. When you're down to nothing, God's up to something.
Yeah.
There's something
That's a
there.
great
I need to
title.
get with my buddy
It's a
Ray
great
Jean and
title.
finish that out.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
I love
but,
Pastor Ray.
Yeah, man, like it was in that season where we learned to trust God not only as our Lord, as our Savior, but as our provider.
That's so good.
And it's not in our
That is
job
good.
title. It's not in
Yeah.
what you do for a living. It's not in how you see yourself. It's just who God is, and it's in His nature. He
Yep.
wants to bless His kids.
Yeah.
And so
That's
when you
awesome.
entrust Him with that, and even with the finances that you do have,
Yeah.
like it's the only area in the Bible where He says, "Test me in this."
Right.
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 He's like, "I'll get it back to you. Like,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
worry. Like, pressed down, shaken together, running over."
So good.
And man, we just saw that.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing. Like I get emotional talking about it, but that year, it was like a year worth of writing, and it was the year that I wrote Miracles and a song called "The Devil's a Liar" and several other songs for that EP, and they were birthed out of that period where I didn't know what the future looked like, didn't have a job technically.
Yeah.
Really had to trust God.
Wow.
And we released
Love
that
it.
EP April of 2020 when everyone else was experiencing what I had just experienced. And I went, wow, God, like how good is it of you to turn this around, not only for my good, but
Yeah.
for everyone else's benefit who decides to press play on this record.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
because I was able to get revelation over some things
Sure,
during that season
sure.
that I wouldn't have otherwise had I
Yeah.
not walked through that. So I'm thankful for that season.
Yeah.
It's hard to be thankful for those seasons.
Sure, yeah.
But those are the seasons where your faith has an opportunity to grow. Whereas otherwise it wouldn't. It
Yeah.
would just remain stagnant because you've got nothing to apply your faith
Yeah,
to.
Nothing coming against it.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
Sure.
So people always want to see miracles, but they never want to be
Right.
in a spot where they need one.
Yep. That's right.
Right?
That's
It's
right.
like,
That is true.
"Ooh."
right.
It's like, no, God
Yeah.
forbid, I don't want to be there, but I would
Yeah.
love to witness somebody else's, It's
Right.
like, no, it's like, wow, how amazing is it when you get to experience that for yourself?
Yeah. We say all the time, like everyone wants to be an overcomer, but they don't want anything to overcome.
Yes, 100%.
Right.
There's, it may sound like I'm painting this in an easy way. It's simple. Don't confuse that. It's simple.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's always easy.
Right.
But I'm thankful that we got on the other side of that season, and God's just good.
So
He's
even
just- he's
the
good.
titles of those songs sound like something that people needed to hear as we were in
Right.
2020.
1000%. Just reminding people, it's like, man, there are two categories in life. There's kill, steal, and destroy, and there's life and life more abundant.
Yeah.
Which category does the devil fit in, and which category does a lot of
good.
2020 fit into?
Right.
Right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh man, whether it was COVID or racial injustice or the whole thing with the police is just like, man, like there's a lot of dirt being stirred up right now. Like what's going on? It's like, oh man, our fight's not against flesh and blood, but it's against what's going on behind the scenes, right? And the things that you can't see.
Yeah.
So I just saw in that season light getting lighter, dark getting darker.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that, again, I came out of that season where I was able to maybe shed some light on some things, cleared the air for some people on some things. And so happy that God would use little old me to do it. Isn't that crazy?
That's so cool.
I love that.
That is cool.
So I know we're got some good conversation happening, and I hate to like shut it down, but we do have like a really good, I feel like a good final question for you. What would you say to someone that feels like that this is what they're supposed to do? Something like this, like use their gifts and their talents for the kingdom, but also entertainment. So what would you say to someone like that? Or maybe what would you say to someone that's tried it, but they've failed, or they feel like they failed and like maybe they've stopped?
There's a lot of weight in
this
question. Man, something that I had to learn feeling called to music to some degree when I was 13 years old. I had a lot of time to think about this. And I had a lot of time to look on the other side of the fence, whether I was at a tour like Winter Jam or, a Christian concert or whatever, and going, man, I want to do that. I want to be there. But in doing that, you're looking on the other side of the fence where you might think the grass is greener.
Right.
Just water your own grass.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole thing. Like, don't miss out on the opportunities that God has for you right here and now. Like, it might be playing to your youth group of 15 people.
Yep.
Like, that is beautiful.
Yes.
Like, there's still responsibility. And honestly, I even hold, like, worship leaders to such a higher standard even to what I do. Like, I'm an entertainer, and I get to tell people about Jesus at my concerts, but it's very different than leading worship to the same congregation week after week and having the responsibility of ushering them into the throne room of God.
Wow.
Like, there's a high weight and authority and responsibility all like, mixed up in there.
Yeah.
But don't miss out on what God has for you right in front of you. Because I missed out on some opportunities that I might never see the fruit of.
Wow.
Because I was so busy thinking, I just need to get there. I just need to get there.
Right.
Let me be the first to tell you, there's nothing here. Like, I heard Jim Carrey say this at a speech. He gave a speech for like Harvard or something. And he's like, man, I wish everyone could get rich and famous just so they could see that there's nothing here to being rich and famous. It's empty. And it is. I haven't experienced it at that level. But just in what I've experienced, it's empty without God. It just is. Like, when God calls you to something and equips you to something, it's the most fulfilling thing you can ever experience in your life.
It is.
But without it, it's nothing. It's meaningless. So just stay after what God has for you, and just press your ear up against his chest, and figure out what it is. Like, he's got something for you right now that will prepare you for that next season.
Wow.
And it's up to you. Last thing I'll say too is the Israelites, God told them, hey, promised land is yours. Go after it. What should have taken them a week and a half took them 40 years. And that wasn't on God.
Right.
He's like, hey, it's there. Take it. It was their own doubting and their own complaining and their own, they took their own way. And how often do we take our own way, and it takes us that much longer to get to what God has promised us? So just keep your head on straight. Figure out what God has called you to, and be led by the Spirit of God.
Amen.
That's just utmost importance, and you'll be good.
Love it.
Amen.
Absolutely
so
love
good.
it.
Man, I don't want to stop talking to you.
Which we tell, I know. I hate that you have sound check, but we tell people that all the time. It's about enjoying the journey on your way to the destination. Let's not get so far out there that we don't enjoy this moment. Right.
Yes.
Let's enjoy it's like Andy Bernard from The Office. I wish someone would have told me I was in the good old days when I was in the good. Well, just make every day the good old days. You know what I mean? And
I love you just quoted The Office. It makes me happy.
Well, I was thinking about it during the podcast because you haven't watched the rest of it, but
I know I haven't seen seen the end of it.
Yeah, a spoiler alert, Andy wants to step out to be an actor and everyone's like, you're going to fail. you're the worst. But I think that sometimes, you know, and even with like Jesus, when he was tempted, you know, and the devil took him up and showed him the nations of the world and showed him what he could have. Like, I think it's important to realize who's given that vision to us, that's showing us that down there is going to be better than this right here. Mm-hmm. Who is showing that? Who's the one that's given us? We think vision's only natural eyes, but there's spiritual eyes that we have too.
That's true.
And so I think it's like, yeah, maybe we'll get there one day, but what's God have for us right now?
Yeah.
In this moment? And let's just do it with excellence.
Yeah.
And like you said, and I think lots of times we always think that God's plan is always ministry related. But I mean, his God has plans for us, maybe to be a lawyer or a teacher or an entertainer or whatever, and he wants to be involved with that.
Yeah.
And he wants to be the center of that, but just be the best at what he's called you to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, worship's a lifestyle, not a
That's
type
right.
of music
That's
or
right.
a
It's how
set
we
length
live
of
our
time
life.
at a service. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, and I just want to say this real quick. I know we're closing, but just thank you, like, not to, you know, stroke your ego. I know it's kind of weird, but like for being humble. You talked about pride. And you came to our church for, you know, Pastor Ray Jean was here, and you got up on stage and you played. And I could just tell right away, and pardon the phrase, if anyone's watching who's in the industry, you just don't have a diva mentality about you, Colton. I love that. I love that. And we all have our own struggles with ego and pride. But for you, like, I'll just tell everyone that's watching, like, homie just got up on stage without any prep, without any sound check, without any monitors, and just did his thing and did it with excellence. And I know some other people in the industry, and they'd be like, the piano has to be this high. The monitor has to be right here. I need water and 5 cough drops, one of them pre-chewed. You know, I mean, it's just like, and they have all these things before they'll get up there. And you were just like, you guys want me to sing? Let me go up there and sing. You know what I mean? And to me, that means it wasn't about you.
Yeah.
It was just about being a blessing to our community and being a blessing to our church. And I absolutely love that. I love that even this, though you have obtained levels of celebrityism. I mean, I've seen you on People Magazine. I've seen you all over the place. I have so many questions for you, bro. But yeah, but you don't make this intimidating at all.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking to Wesley or Cody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you don't hold yourself above us.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And I think that makes you an individual that God can really push out front.
Amen.
Makes you an individual that God can really use. So keep that about you. I know you don't need my advice, but you know, keep your humility, keep grinding, man. I absolutely love it. You're a rock star.
Dude, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed the
Absolutely.
convo.
You were amazing.
Yes.
This has been amazing. I'm excited to see you live in concert
bro.
tonight. It's going to be
so
great.
fun.
We're gonna have a wall of death.
Yeah.
If anyone doesn't know what that is, it's just where people split and they charge each other, and it's just they meet in the middle. We probably won't have one of those, but
No,
anyways,
not tonight. The next
Hey.
concert.
Next
Who knows?
concert in the field.
Spirit might break out.
Yeah.
Let's do it, brother. I'm open for it. I am open for it. So,
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on the Good Talk.
Yes.
Colton Dixon, thank you for joining us on the
thank
Good
you
Talk.
so much.
We will see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Bye.